Hello and welcome to the Daft Souls podcast, episode number 17. And I'm joined by Mr. Chris Bratt
Hiya.
and Tamara Zhang.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. How are you,
Pleasure
Chris?
to have you both here.
Tremendously well. Matt, last time I came here, I got a quiche.
I know, right?
That's all I'm saying. I'm quiche-less today.
I know there's no quiche. And actually, you know what? I was going to make a quiche today. So otherwise, it's probably for the best you didn't. Otherwise, it would just be like...
I bet he does this for all the guys.
Yeah. So you wouldn't feel special anymore. Just getting standard quiche. Anyway, enough quiche chat for now. Some more. First time on the podcast.
Yes, I'm really excited to be in this room because I see so much of it on video, and I'm like, oh, so this is where magic happens. Yeah,
half of it.
I'm seeing I'm picking up a lot of tips on like how to make sound in my area better. So I've seen like equipment that I've got my eye on now. Not stealing, buying later. I might be from East London.
There is some good stuff. It's mostly MacGyver though. It's mostly like
I like it. That's what I like about it.
My favourite part of this room in terms of the audio setup is the way I've put audio dampening inside the cupboards.
Yeah.
So when I open the cupboards...
Just because you know you'll have the doors open.
It's because I know that if I start putting audio dampening stuff on the outside of things in my house, my girlfriend will kill me.
right. Okay.
Because she doesn't want this.
I always watch your videos and I was like, why does he leave that open? Because I never noticed the thing. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just because he's really proud of his shirt collection.
Because the bounce back. See?
Now I know.
I get a lot of people actually, I feel bad for them because I get a lot of people with OCD when I watch videos going, shut the bloody cupboard, because they can't deal with looking at the mess behind me while I do it. Sorry about that, but unfortunately the mess is what makes the audio sound nice. Anyway, Tamor, what have you been playing?
I've been playing, I've had a lot of time to play a lot of games, and I actually have not played many games, so I'm not making very good use of that time. I played a bunch of Invisible Ink yesterday. And
that looks really good.
It's really, really cool. I thought, it popped up on Steam Early Access, and it's Clay? I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, I had to check on their Twitter bio, actually. It's like,
these are the guys who made...
Mark of the Ninja.
Yeah.
And Don't Starve as well.
Yeah, Don't Starve. Mark of the Ninja, in my opinion, one of the best stealth games ever. So I was like, and then I saw it was a stealth game, and then I saw turn-based, and I was like, I'm in.
I'm the same. Went through the checkbox, turn-based,
exactly.
Permadeath. You move around on a grid.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's $11.99.
We're going to have to get involved with
it's
this.
$11.99, and it is stealth XCOM, essentially.
How? Because it's early access. What kind of a state is it in at the moment?
I was surprised. I'm quite cynical with early access. I'm not a big fan. The few experiences that I have had, I've not had good experiences with them. Stuff like Rust and stuff like that. I'm sure the concepts are there, but I like a little more polish and a little more substance to it. So when I started it, I was like, this might be a bit weird, but it's surprisingly well. Like I played for about 2 or 3 hours, and it felt like it was a completed product.
I think they've been working on it for
a really
2 years.
time,
obviously before the early access stuff really kicked off. So I think that idea came in after the game was already shaping.
Is Don't Starve generated? The world's generated in the same way because it's randomly generated worlds.
Procedurally, isn't it?
Procedurally generated worlds. Whenever you start, is Don't Starve the same way?
I think so. Yes.
Because I
must
thought
be, otherwise.
Yeah, I thought it would make sense that they use similar tech to kind of like generate the worlds and that kind of thing. So it might be that they had like a little shortcut with that kind of stuff. But it's well polished. It's really good. So like it's grid based. You move around. I don't know about you, but I wanted to live stream it, and I found that it's kind of difficult to live stream. I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, but every time I start it, the missions get to the elevator. And a lot of the time, it's got a fog of war thing. So you've kind of like, you move your agents. You've got 2 of them. First guy, I can't remember his name. It's like Deckard or something like that. Yeah. He looks just like Inspector Gadget. And you get to move him around, and he's got really good high stealth skills. Whereas the other character is a female called Internationale or something like that. She can hack from really far away. So you kind of move them around, and you uncover the map as you go along, and kind of there's an exploration kind of like ranking at the end.
That's where the procedural stuff comes in, because you're never really too sure what you're going to come up against, which is good and bad. I think I had mixed experiences with the maps that are being created. Like some of them, like a big part of that game is trying to get control of the cameras. So first of all, the cameras, if you get detected, are going to alert the rest of
etc.
But also on the flip side, if you can control them, that you can use them to get a good idea of what the map looks like. And some of the cameras end up being in weird positions. But other than that, I think procedurally generated seems to make sense for that kind of game, because it's I get the idea that you're meant to mess up a little bit, because it's got permadeath in, and each campaign feels quite small because it starts off and says you've got 72 hours to prepare for your final mission.
I guess procedural generation must be harder for buildings than it is for like worlds in a weird way.
I wonder if you can. I guess you can do it with rooms themselves, though. Split the rooms.
Well, still,
up
it's like, I mean, obviously, like with stuff like No Man's Sky, the way they're doing procedural, having these planets with creatures and stuff, you can kind of afford. It needs to look real. It needs to feel rooted in reality, but you could probably fudge a lot of stuff. Whereas, like stuff like buildings,
Yeah, I guess it needs to be tight.
how buildings are. There is really specific rules about architecture that we probably just have in our heads.
There is a lot of that. Like I was saying, like I'd spawn, and in a lot of cases, the mission would be find the elevator, and the elevator is in the very next room next to me. I'm like, that's weird.
But you, like, even then, you still need to. So you've got 72 hours. I think, as far as I am aware, the purpose of going on those missions is to earn money to be in a good state for that final mission. I don't really know what that final mission looks like. I've only played a couple hours as well. But yeah, so you could just escape at that stage, but I guess really you want to go out.
So it's like most roguelikes, you want to make sure you actually rinse it.
Yeah, and also that 72-hour limit means that there is a finite cap on how much, how many credits you can earn by the end of that game. So I guess to be in a good state, you really need to get the most out of each level, which I like the idea of. I think I'm hoping there is a little bit more variation. Like you said, most of the levels, the structure that get to the elevator, get out with a load of cash.
Get in, get
I
out.
like the alert system it has. Like it's got a kind of like a dial at the top which fills up a bit every time you make a move. So you start off and there's not really any enemies about. It would just be cameras and maybe like a wall of lasers or something. But every time you make a move,
it's just one of them little laser
walls.
It's
like a building. So every time you move, it fills up this little bar, and when it goes all the way around, it levels up and then increases the kind of security measures they take. So the cameras, it will send in one or two enemies, and then as you keep the longer you take, the more you explore, it gets harder and harder by the end. Like I've been up to level 5 or 6, and I've had like enemies that are armored and pistoled up, and like it's crazy by the end of it. But actually, I like that system.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because generally stealth games are about patience. Like you wait in one position, you see a guard, and you try and figure out what their patrol pattern looks like, and then at the right time you take them out. And there is an element of that. You can't rush that because your agents are quite squishy. But the fact that that alert system's always going means that you have to move quickly. It's kind of like in XCOM with Enemy Within. The MALD meant that you had to start acting differently within the game. You had to start moving quickly. And that alert system is like the MALD countdown. And I like it. It stops the game from feeling too comfortable, I guess.
It's kind of like adds a risk reward to how much you want to explore and how much you want to chase.
You've got to do that in a lot of roguelike. Well, not all roguelikes, but the thing is, because so many roguelikes with dungeons, I mean, I played a lot of like Dungeons of Dreadmore, and I played a bunch of Eldritch, which has been on sale this week. It's a great game. But a lot of them, it is that thing of being like, well, even though sometimes it's boring, you think, well, I should go and check everything on this floor
because I need everything.
You might not need everything in it now, but when you get to the third floor, you'll be wishing you had that extra bit of experience or money or whatever. And that's okay, but it's kind of nice when you have that sort of thing of being chased down somehow.
I completely did that as well. I failed an actual playthrough because I got really greedy. There was this, I hadn't seen that many different ideas because I just started the game, but then suddenly there was this room with like 3 layers of lasers and 2 guards within inside it, and a terminal that you had to hack to open the safes in the room. I was like, this is your big payout, Chris. This is how you make your name out here. And I fudged it. I spent way too long trying to get in there. The alert system went crazy. There was too many guards.
Yeah.
And both my agents died.
Yeah.
End of the game. You don't come back from that.
Someone should make like a Resident Evil Nemesis style version of Diablo, where instead of going down through a dungeon to find Diablo, you're going down through a dungeon while Diablo follows you down. You just got to keep getting as deep as you can.
That's an amazing idea.
Really good.
I had a similar thing where I was
steal my ideas, internet.
It's already gone.
I had a similar thing where I was exploring and I was I wasn't paying attention to the actual meter and keeping in mind that I would have to eventually make my way back through this area to get to the elevator. So I was just going ahead and ahead and ahead. By the time I was like, all right, I need to go to the elevator now. Turn around, there's like armored guards pistoled up, and they're all like patrolling trolling. I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess the fact that the elevator was so close to you ended up being really
ended up
difficult.
and the thing is that it's still doable. You have to be very, very smart. Like a couple of the characters had a move called Predict Movement, which kind of lets you see what the next thing they're going to do is. So you could use that to kind of place yourself strategically. If there's like various cover points in each room, like stuff like tables, chairs, sofas, that kind of stuff. And if you move your character near it, they automatically go into like a ducking animation where they're breaking line of sight.
Gorgeous animations.
It's really, really good animations, clear and thin, and they do awesome. And you can do stuff like closing doors and opening doors to either, if you open it, you can kind of attract someone, or if you need to run past somewhere, you can close doors so that it breaks line of sight and you can just carry on moving. So eventually it is doable to make it back, but it's extremely difficult.
Everything you just mentioned pretty much costs action points as well.
Yeah,
so and
AP.
each character has a certain amount. So like. Yeah, I think even the predicting the movement of a guard is great intel, but means you're going to be able to move less that turn.
I've been playing a roguelike in the past week and a half or so, which is like the complete opposite of that, in the fact that it's called, I can't remember if I talked about this last time, but it's called Curse of the Necrodancer.
Oh god, I really want to play that game.
It's really good fun. I mean, it's again early access, but I mean, I'm not good enough at the game to like have got to a point where I felt like I've hit any kind of wall with content. But basically, it's a game where...
Rhythm-based roguelike.
It's a rhythm-based roguelike dungeon, and it's got awesome music, and basically the way it works is it's like you have to just press the direction keys, and it is just using the direction keys on the keyboard, just down, left, right. At the same time, you have to just keep hitting the beat and going through a dungeon, killing stuff, and the enemies move in kind of patterns, so you have to learn the patterns of the way they move, otherwise you're going to get hit. And you collect treasure, but it has a nice thing, like it does what Rogue Legacy did of having, so even if every time you die, if you collected some gems, some diamonds, you can spend the diamonds on permanent upgrades. Sometimes, there aren't that many permanent upgrades, it's more stuff like this item will drop. Like now you'll get this armor in some of the chests. So you're always increasing your odds of being able to get further next time, but it is largely skill. But the thing is, you don't have to give an order every time. You can just stop and think. But for while you're stopping and thinking, enemies will continue to move, which may be deadly. And secondly, you lose your coin multiplier and all of the disco lights disappear.
That second bit's
which is like, I know, it means you never do it, which means you're just constantly going, and I'm rubbish at it because I constantly make bad decisions and get hit by enemies because I can't bring myself to not... Like,
you know how they're demoing that game, by the way, like
on dance mats,
on fucking dance mats,
which is
like a roguelike on a dance
it's
mat.
It's kind of PR genius and kind of dumb because the thing is, they've sent loads of YouTubers dance mats, and
most people aren't going to play the game like that.
Yeah, but it's kind of smart it's smart PR because they knew that if they sent loads of big YouTubers dance mats in the game,
I would eventually say, dude, did you know they played on dance mats?
And it would be a funny video, people watch it. Whereas actually, I just imagine it being really fucking frustrating on a dance mat.
Yeah.
I think there was a dance mat mode which just loads easier.
Okay, right, that makes sense.
But it's a lot of fun on the keyboard, and it's sort of like, I'm not very good at it, but it's got awesome music. It's really fun.
I heard that like even when you're talking to the shopkeeper to buy items, that's even done in rhythm as well, right?
Yeah,
it
is. And the shopkeepers sing along to the music, and the music is badass. But the only thing I'll say about it is it's kind of like it's very functional. It works in early access. If that sounds awesome, then do check it out. But it's stuff like it doesn't even have like gamepad support at the moment, which kind of bothers me because I want to play it on a pad. And also it's one of these things where it's like, this is a really good game because I just bought it because Quinn's, he'll probably talk about this again in the future podcast because he loves it. It's like, you've got to get this game, it's like a rhythm action roguelike. I was like, sold, all right, fine. And I just bought it immediately, but then I was like, oh, this is really good, but I would have loved this on a handheld. Like, this is such a handheld game or a console game, and
it may eventually be that. That's the thing with early access games, isn't it?
It probably will.
I'm sure playing Invisible Link now is great, but it will be better later down the line. And it's like early access, you kind of just have to realise that.
Yeah.
It's like, how patient are you, Chris?
The thing
like,
is,
do you want to wait a little bit and get the full experience? Or do you want to play it right now?
But this is more a reminder for me of like when you buy certain PC games on early access, you're fine because even if you just think, well, sod it, I'm not going to play it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then you play it later and go, oh, it's amazing. But with this, it's like, it's early access, but I then know that if it then comes out on PS4 or PS Vita, I'm not going to get a copy of that. And I'd probably rather play it on that because it's great for just pick up and play for 5 minutes.
I think Sony would love to show that off at a Gamescom conference.
I think I would be very surprised if it doesn't end up on PS Vita, but just because it's such a perfect fit for the console. It's really pick up and play fast. And the thing that's annoying, this sounds dumb, but because of the nature of the game, in the first dungeon, the tempo is very slow. And in the second dungeon, it's faster, etc., etc. And that's fine, but it means once you get quite good at it, the tempo in the first dungeon is so slow that there's something about, like, if you were sitting back on a pad, just very relaxedly pressing the buttons in time, it would be okay. But there's something about sitting forward on the keyboard and having to wait half a second every time before you press it that just feels very much like, I don't want to be extending my wrist like this. Maybe I'm a lazy bastard. I don't know.
I think that's an issue with roguelikes in general. I think the reason some games manage to do it better, like Spelunky is the one that a lot of people see as one of the best examples of that. But I think if you can figure out how to make the start of the game fairly easy to get through for new players, but also if you're an experienced player, you can get more out of it than usually would. If you can have a good start of a game, then it makes it feel less tedious.
I think that's the problem I have with this game, really, actually, is the fact that your skill increase is... It's mostly about knowledge. It's mostly about remembering stuff, like remembering that when you get the fireball spell, it does this, and you can use it this time. Remembering that when you get this, you can use that. And understanding how all of the enemies work in terms of their patterns, so you can kill them with the weapon you've got without getting hurt. But the problem with that is when you start back at the start, you can't fast track. You can't be like, well, I know what I'm doing. In the way that Spelunky, you can just do a mad dash and you could be super fucking awesome and you can get through the whole first 4 levels in a couple of minutes without getting hurt. In this, you're still kind of bound by the tempo, obviously, of literally the tempo of the way the game is paced. So it's kind of, I mean, I still really like it, but it's kind of like it's sort of held back. But having said that, I don't know, like there may be, because there are all these doors with different upgrades. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the doors I haven't unlocked yet is like pay diamonds to make it so that the first area is like double speed or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
It is cool to be able to say rhythm-based roguelike, though.
And it's early access, so maybe the thing is, like, people like me will be saying these things and they'll go, that's actually a problem, we hadn't thought of that, and they'll, So it's very cool. And actually there's something else which, it's not early access, but we were talking earlier about I don't think this is a roguelike, but it's grid-based, and I'm going to be checking it out soon, so I'll definitely, I'll almost definitely be talking about it on next week's podcast, which is Halfway.
Okay.
Halfway is a game which I only heard about earlier today. There's a chap on Twitter called Ravendale. You should follow him. He does a daily indie game thing. Basically plays an indie game every day and does a video about it, which is amazing. But he put it up today, and it's like a cross between XCOM and Aliens. But it's got a nice, simple art style. I think it's a lot simpler than XCOM. But yeah, I took one look at the video and I was like, yeah, I'm sold on this. So I've got a copy of that. I'm gonna play that, and I've got high hopes for it. It looks really cool.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds awesome. I mean, you said XCOM. I worry that I am just becoming this person now there's a checklist. You go through it and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play that game. I just can't. I can't not. It's grid based. It's permadeath. It's it's got roguelike elements. I'm like, yeah, all right, okay. Yeah,
I'm thinking of replaying XCOM, and I was listening to your podcast recently, the last episode, and you guys were talking about Fire Emblem, and I was like, oh man, I want to play Fire Emblem again. Anything grid-based, like grid-based strategy right now. I'm hot on that.
Well, I find anything grid-based gets me in, but because I've played so many of them, I've got really high standards, so I get fucked off with them really easily. And that's why, when we talked about Fire Emblem, I ended up getting even though I put about 12 hours into it, I ended up getting quite annoyed with it, where it's quite rare that I play a game that I see all the way through. And like XCOM has problems, but that was one of the few ones where I'm just like, this is just good. I have reservations about this, but nothing that makes me not want to play the game.
I never finished it, so I'm kind of thinking about going back and starting it all over again.
Well, the ending's kind of a bit of a gimmick. I won't spoil it, but the whole thing with XCOM is it's kind of like a game that doesn't really have much story, and then all at the end just goes, oh, here's a bit of story.
Yeah, I get why they did that, but I agree completely. That mission felt really out of place.
They feel out of place to begin with, but then you realise that those missions actually break the game, in my mind. That's the only thing that I really have a problem with in XCOM is the scripted missions, because the whole point is that it's randomised and you get screwed over by things you don't expect, and especially an Enemy Within, where it mixes up the AI a lot, and aliens do unpredictable things, and it really kind of puts you on your toes. To have these missions where the aliens always appear in the same places, it just feels like you're kind of taking advantage of the game, because you're like, and this is the point where the thin man drops down there and he gets shot by 6 people. Thank you. It's like, you feel cheap.
We mentioned the Long War mod just before the podcast started, and like one of the best things that mod does is changes where the alien spawns happen really dramatically. It is much more random.
Yeah.
So like you'll see the pods which the aliens have dropped down on as you're going through the map, and there will be a group patrolling around the area. But where those pods happen is much more random, and it. When you played, I think Long War, you need to have played a lot of XCOM to really
what is
appreciate.
Long?
Oh, sorry.
What is this? What are you talking about?
It's a.
I thought it was a board game.
It's a user-made mod that basically turns the game into, I think, like a 200-hour game or something ludicrous.
Yeah. You can put it on a faster mode. Which I'm probably going to do. It's a mod that just changes loads of stuff about XCOM. I started playing it yesterday for the first time, and because it's been a bit of a rough week for various reasons, I really didn't feel like saving the world. You know, sometimes you're just like, I can't be arsed saving the world.
It's been made by a group of people who really understand that game, and like I think mechanically it's much better than the original version of XCOM ever was. I'm still not entirely sure about the pacing because I quite like XCOM's pacing. I like the fact that I can get attached to a soldier and use them in all the missions rather than having to switch them around all the time. But that is incredible.
I've barely scratched the surface of it, but they've made a lot of major changes to the way the game works that work really nicely. I mean, the first thing is right off the bat from the first mission, instead of having 4 troops, you have 6.
And they're all wearing vests, which is alarming, let me tell you.
Sleeveless vests. I mean, seriously, man, this is hot. No, basically,
sun's out, guns out.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. That is the XCOM motto in the war. But no, basically, the way it works is that they're a bit more randomized. So some troops have 4 health, some have 5 at the start, so they actually have more or less health. And then when they level up, instead of just being instead of it being like a tombola of being like, oh, you got another heavy, or oh, you got an assault, you get to choose 2 different perks. And based on those 2 different perks, basically there are 8 classes. So you get 4 choices, and each of those choices lets you choose one of 8
Yeah,
classes.
So basically the end result is that instead of having, he's my heavy, he's my sniper, it's like, he's this weird mix of things that I've created and he is something else. And it makes the soldiers feel much more unique. Because
they tweaked the whole thing, and also they made it so that after missions, guys get fatigued. So it basically encourages you. You can, if you're still shafted, send them on a mission, but then they get wounded from the fatigue. But it basically means that you're less reliant on heroes in a way, and you have a wider scope of soldiers.
I agree.
You send more people on more missions. They seem to get promotions a lot better as well if it's a successful mission. But then it has loads of really harsh things like people. I love just reading the FAQ because it was like, oh, this is evil. People being like, oh, I cleared a terror mission and I saved some people and I still got panic. And it's like, yeah, well, people died. People get panicked by that stuff.
It's just an incredible feat. Like there's a bunch of new weapons. The aliens evolve over time. The whole thing feels drastically different.
It's more of a head-to-head game in the fact that occasionally you'll have, this is just from what I've read, you'll have a big UFO which will just land somewhere. And rather than being scaled like the original game of being you can take on anything providing
you have to just let them go.
You just have to go, no. Or you turn up on missions, you're like, oh god, these guys got mutons. And you just have missions where you just have to retreat.
That hardly ever happens in the original XCOM. You do that if in very, very rare cases.
You do that when you fucked up.
But these ones, you're actually, the feeling of getting there, seeing that you just can't take on a group and going, okay, I've got to get out of here.
Get out, yeah.
Is incredible. And I don't think the original game would ever really want players to do that. It is designed for people that have completed the game already, I think.
Yeah.
Because that's disheartening if you don't know.
They've got all their secret tech trees going on, so when they're doing these missions and you can't stop them, it's because they're there for something that's going to help them. So it basically means the problem is you're playing the long game, and you can lose the long game, not because you fail missions too many times, but because you let the aliens gain too much ground, and they just get stronger than you. And
you could have been playing for an awful long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I can't, I'm probably going to keep it on the shorter game. And the shorter game is basically just standard length, so maybe 16, 20 hours rather than 100. But it is cool. I mean, I like the way that actually I didn't even notice.
You just looked off into the distance when you said 100 then, and just the very thought of it just kind of hurt you a little bit.
Well, I just switched on. I switched on Steam to load it up yesterday to have a look at it, and I think my main problem with looking at it was that I wasn't I wasn't taking it seriously. I was like, I'm just looking at it. And it's really hard to feel invested if you know you're not playing a game to win it. So I was like, oh, whatever. But anyway, I noticed I played like 70 hours of XCOM, and I was just like, this isn't even the main thing I played it on. Like when it first came out, I played it on the Xbox. So it's like, you played 70 hours of XCOM after you've completed it 3 times. Like
I only played Enemy Unknown, and I got to, there's like a DLC thing. I just remember it. For some reason, I've just got it linked to China. Like
Slingshot.
Asian DLC. So I was playing that, and I got like in a really bad situation, and I wasn't saving properly, doing multiple saves and all that stuff or whatever. And I just like reached a point where no matter what I did, they were killing me. So that's where I just abandoned the game. I was like, I'll have to start again. I'll do it later. And then didn't get back to it. And Enemy Within came out. Didn't touch that. So now that I'm considering going back, I might just buy it on PC and go.
Oh yeah, you definitely should. Because the thing is, I played it on PC and I really couldn't get my head around the playing it on a PC, basically. Especially because of the way it often works with, I don't know, like, I found it a bit weird the fact you can use the num keys, and there are shortcuts and stuff, but basically I played too much on the Xbox. But you can just plug a wired 360 pad in, and it's basically like, it's like playing on the Xbox, except the graphics are really, really nice, and there aren't any load times and all that ridiculous mods. Yeah. But the mods, I mean, even the way they've changed it so that when aliens get intercepted and stuff, I hadn't realised how much I've missed it until I started playing Long War, and I watched my fighter chase a UFO, and I was like, oh, because I remember in the original XCOM, I used to remember the tension of just watching them chase it, being like, are they going to be able to catch up with it? Because often in the original XCOM, like, they wouldn't. They'd chase it around for ages, and then it would get off a bit, and they'd be like, we've lost it.
So I missed out on the original XCOM, but I just played Xenonauts a couple of months ago, which is a reimagining.
It's like a massive homage.
It's not by the same guys, but it's completely based around that game. That when that music kicks in and you watch the your fighters chase after the UFOs, it is weird to see how. And I get why some people didn't like Enemy Unknown now, even though I think it's one of the.
I still think they're really different games. The original XCOM and the remake. I think they're both some of the best games ever made in their own rights. But I'm enjoying Long War just because it's just throwing up a different set of rules, and it's throwing in loads of old school PC gaming stuff, which is horrible, but also really, really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's just a different game, and that's cool. And it's a bit strange because it's like, it looks like the same game, but you start playing and go, this is just, on the first UFO mission I went to, I was having to fight an outsider.
The outsiders I think that was one of the things they wanted to address. The outsiders are tough. They regenerate. They're way more powerful.
They've got 10 health, and they whenever they go into like Overwatch mode or hunker down, they gain like 3 health per turn.
And damn straight, because they're like seen as the heart of the UFOs in some ways.
But it was mint. It was like I had a team of 6 people, all flanking, all waiting for the right moment to run, or waiting for the right moment to take a shot. Another really simple thing they've added, which is really smart, is you can do now, rather than just being like, well, I've got nothing to do, so I'll go into Overwatch, you can have, like, with some of the guns, you can have steady aim. So you can basically be like, they're going to take a better shot next time. And all those shot values are bullshit. It's like, do you want 27% this turn? Or do you want to wait a turn and get 47%? And you're like, don't make me choose. Don't make me choose, you bastards. But then the way they've done it, I mean, they've done it so that the original sets of weapons, there are 3 you can choose from. You can have an SMG or a rifle or an assault, like carbine.
There's a difference between a carbine and the rifle.
But then they've used the assets from the expansion, Enemy Within, to make it so you can use the Exalt weapons now. Their skins are now, or vice versa, are now like the equivalent of Gauss weapons, or Gauss from the original XCOM. So they've added in like more tiers of guns.
I played it before an update which introduced sawed-off shotguns as a
sawed-off shotguns,
which loads of games have sawed-off shotguns in. Never been as excited to hear that as hearing Long War now has.
But it's basically a single shot secondary weapon, so you only fire it once. But it basically just means you can have somebody who just runs up next to them and they've done a lot of stuff. But it was just amazing. It was like, I'm playing this insane tactical fight. And I love the fact that one of the things the FAQs again is like, I'm having a real problem on this UFO mission. It's like, oh, is it a landed UFO mission? Because you don't really want to do them. Like, shoot them down and most of the aliens will be dead. But if you go one that's just landed, there's going to be loads of aliens there. So we've just done our traditional trick.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's fine. It's not your fault. It was going to happen anyway, but it's almost a tradition. Whenever it's me and Brett on the podcast, we talk about XCOM.
Yeah.
inordinately.
There's hand gestures. That's it. It's just get.
Did anyone play PT?
Yes, yeah.
No, but please do.
What do you think of it?
I had a lot of fun with it. I played it so it was announced on the Monday during the conference.
Gamescom, yeah.
And we were in the office at the time. And we thought, you know what, this makes sense. Let's just do something with this new demo that's come out. It'll be fun to just do this evening. I said I'd do it. It'll probably only take 15 minutes. Be fine. Be some weird horror game. And I sat down thinking it's going to be some weird horror game. Started laughing about the idea that it was an interactive teaser. And then I was in the office for 5 hours. 2.5 of those were spent playing the game. 2.5 of them were on NeoGAF, just going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
It was, I compared it to like when I watched Lost for the first time, and after every episode you go online and check the forums, and everyone had these crazy ideas of what was going to happen.
Yeah, like, do you hear that theory about Lost that the writers just didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing?
Yeah, I did.
Theory.
But at the time,
It's been confirmed now, obviously.
at the time, that people were so sure that like everything was going to get worked out. That polar bear meant something, man. And so that's still happening now. To be honest, I don't know that there's been an official guide to how you complete that. I know some people have managed to do it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I spent 5 hours just walking around.
See, I played it for about 2 hours, and there's a bit where I reached a point where I was in a loop, and I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to be doing. And like about 2 hours, this is about 2 hours, and I was just like, this is bullshit. I'm out. Like, just left it there. I had a lot of fun playing it,
same.
and it's a lot of the same tricks that Amnesia uses and Penumbra and that kind of thing. It's very scary. I found it like.
Well, at first, I agree. By the end of it, once I got to about 3 or 4 hours, I just started like. I recorded something at a time, and you can see like when I first saw the scary lady woman that you may or may not have murdered, completely freaked out. Like legs went everywhere.
So basically, I was in another country when all of this happened.
Missed out on all the fun,
so
man.
It didn't happen for me. Because actually, I should know actually. If you're interested in the XCOM board game, I was out with Shut Upside Down, the other guys, and we did. Today went up our live podcast where we do talk about the XCOM board game quite a bit.
Sweet, cool.
I won't do that here now because I've just talked about XCOM for ages. If you're interested in that, then go and check out the Shut Upside Down podcast. But I don't. Yeah, like I missed this. They just basically say during an announcement,
they just popped
you can download this free fucking demo.
Yeah, they were like they showed something. It barely showed any gameplay.
Yeah, Kojima just left the stage.
Yeah,
I think.
he bounced.
But I didn't get the relation there. I just thought they were just going, oh yeah, here's a demo, you can play it.
Yeah,
and that's all I got.
PT,
didn't get the link at all.
No, neither. No, and no one got it. No one understood.
Trousers.
It's playable teaser.
That's
very well done. That's literally what he said. He goes, no, it's just called playable teaser. People are trying to figure out what the PT stands for.
That's amazing.
Like, no, it's just
I've got a lot of time for that. It's like we just couldn't be asked.
Yeah. So he left. So everyone just thought, it's just one of those many games that they've just slotted into the kind of like a roulette of montage thing of games, and then it was out now. So I thought about playing it then. I was like, you know what? It's just some teaser for a game. I'll leave it until later.
Yeah.
I thought about like I should do a let's play on that, and I was like, it's probably not going to be all that important. I'll do it tomorrow. Nope, it's Silent Hill and all this other business, and it's just like, oh crap.
They probably stole the show with that.
Yeah, I think it's the only thing people are still talking about.
Best thing from Gamescom, without doubt.
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't feel like I'd missed much because I was doing other stuff, but I every night before I went to bed, I'd just go on Twitter and just have a look. I was partly on holiday, partly working, and it was just like the fact that I wasn't seeing XCOM 2 anywhere. I was like, nah, fine. Because when they announce that, they will announce it at Gamescom or around that. I honestly believe that. But
yeah, it's weird like that.
There's not much going on though. This
and the PT thing was raced over. Like they mentioned it so quickly, and yet that is by far the thing that people
card trick classic.
It's great,
very good,
and it's so exciting because it's nice to see like game marketing using the strength of games. I think I keep thinking back to the Stanley Parable demo as being a good link to that because that used the strength of they use that humour to make fun of demos, and it's a slightly different feel to it, but made me much more excited about the game. And, you know, we watch a lot of very, very impressive looking trailers during shows like Gamescom, and nothing compares to getting into an actual game and then having no idea what was going on.
Also, the problem with the way that these trailers work is that they are run through the same, they're all based on, because it's big money, right? When you're launching a big game, it's big money, and it means they're all made with the same data. They're made with the big market data from market research and what they know about what sells and stuff. And it just means it all just comes. And that's the thing I found about E3 this year. I just found a bit like, I can't be arsed looking at E3 anymore. Not because I don't want to play the games when they come out. Like I'll happily play a lot of those games when they come out. But when the way that they announce them, it's just like everything's the same.
Yeah.
Like this year was just like all of the games were 4-player co-op. And it was like all the demos had a twist, but now we go to 4-player co-op, and it's like, I just fucking.
Have you been keeping an eye on Metal Gear Solid 5?
I haven't actually.
They have released. They showed off that first area, the Afghanistan area, the kind of like the awesome playable demo thing.
Right.
They have re-released that like 5 times now. They re-released it today, and I was like really excited. Big multiplayer reveal coming for Metal Gear Solid multiplayer. You're finally going to see what the Kojima LA studio is doing. It starts off with that entire run through of that demo, and then at the end there's a bit where they show Snake running around Mother Base, and he's just playing the exact same kind of game. He's just stealthing through this same area.
Is Mother Base that's your
home zone where you.
And there's like a
return to.
multiplayer element to it now.
Yeah, so everyone's got their own Mother Base. It's kind of cool. Everyone has their own Mother Base. They kind of build upgrades to it. They set it out how they want, put troops where they want, and that kind of thing. But you can Dark Souls style invade someone else's Mother Base and kill their troops, steal their shit, and do all kinds of make mischief there. And so they showed a bit of that, but for the most part, it looks like you're just playing Metal Gear Solid outside of Afghanistan in a weird like tanker area, and then it ends by like a rocket comes out of nowhere and lands in front of Snake, and Snake dives out of the way, and then it pans to where the rocket came from, and it's another Snake, and they're like, player frowned up, and it's like that was the worst way you could have revealed that possible.
Double Snake.
Yeah, it's just terrible. But they keep re-releasing that trailer. And as a huge fan of Metal Gear, I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it.
Yeah,
anymore.
and also you kind of like you wonder there. It's like, are you just really adamant that you don't want to spoil anything else, or have you is it going a bit slow? Like, have you not made anything else?
My worry is that it's going really slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out next year, I think. So I'm hoping they're going to start showing more. But I'm every time they show that same area of the game, I become a little more suspicious.
Well, it's the problem, isn't it, with the step up? Because we saw that with like Final Fantasy years ago, when Final Fantasy first stepped up away from like the kind of 2D backgrounds and 3D characters and stuff, and got into like the kind of 10 and all that era, you had this massive disparity because they were like they clearly invested a lot of money into making some of the areas look beautiful, and then some of them just look like dick because it was like they weren't used to the step up, they weren't used to dealing with it, and the Fox engine for those guys was just such a big jump. It's like, have they cashed a check that their arse can't?
That engine seems to be quite versatile. Like they use it for PT,
so
and a lot of
they're using it in Silent Hills as well. I guess
I imagine Konami are using that as their proprietary engine now. I mean, they're using it on PES as well, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, okay.
But it's smart. It looks really nice. They're kind of tricking everyone by there's a lot of asset reuse. You're basically walking down. Have you played it? Or seen a lot of it?
Oh, PT?
Yeah.
I've seen screenshots of it. It looks like a gallery with the lights off.
You're walking down this hallway in a house over and over again. So the idea is every time you open a door, you're going through a dimension, corridor. But you're always ending up in the same area, but it's just another weird dimension.
Up until you haven't done what they wanted you to do to trigger the next one, and then you kind of go around pressing X on things. Yeah,
it's literally like someone described it. Eventually, you reach a point where you realize, I need to actually do something, trigger something, because I reached a point where I don't know if you got it, but there's like a weird, some sort of like fridge hanging from the roof, and there's a body in it, and it's just screaming at the top of her lungs constantly.
That's not nice.
And as you're trying to figure out what to do, you're listening to it, and eventually you're like, Jesus.
I think that's actually a good example of the problem we were talking about before. I heard when I walked into that next reset, I heard those screams, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to walk around this corner. Saw the fridge, saw blood dripping out of it, thought, you know what, that is a scary prospect. And yet, half an hour later, I hadn't figured out what it was. Yeah. I think it's the writing on the wall that you need to switch around.
So you've got to basically hit the R3 button, and it zooms in a bit on something, and that's how you trigger it. But you are actually looking for pixels to zoom in on.
It took me a long time to grasp that. So that fridge, by the first of all, very scary.
That was where I got to.
And then, I just got so annoyed with that noise. Constant screaming went from scary to annoying, and that is the PT experience. I think it starts with very scary.
It's really clever, because I think what you're supposed to do is there's a message written on a wall. It's like they're coming for me from. And then there's another word written over there.
It's hello on the other
wall. And when you look at that message and then look over there and look back, a letter's disappeared. So apparently it's
So
like
you need to basically you
over
do
there.
it with the first. You just do it with Hal. You leave the O, and then Hal. It says what was the other
coming
one?
from Hell
They're coming from Hal, and
or
then
something like that,
you leave
yeah.
the O and walk
Yeah.
through the door. It's a new the next step. That's pretty much that is PT. That conversation right there is exactly what PT is.
It's a clever
for.
puzzle.
Yeah. And there's
But
like,
I imagine if somebody's screaming out while you do it, it gets
it's
fucking
really
loud.
frustrating.
And there's a baby in a sink at the same time.
there's a little
which
weird,
also
it's like
screams.
not even a baby, it's like a fetus.
Oh, it sounds like a really bad weekend at Butlins.
It's not great. It's not a great time.
I don't like. I mean, that's the thing is I find this stuff fascinating, but it's like I saw everyone go, "Oh my god!" about all this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't really play survival horror games or horror games.
I'm interested in seeing how this kind of translates to Silent Hill because
I'd be very I know some people are worried that kind of ambiguous style and the fact the frustration will carry on to the game. I'd be very surprised if that happens.
Anything like because at the end of it just they show Norman Reedus and it pulls out into a third person kind of perspective kind of thing. I think this is just them saying, look, we know how to do scary, kind of.
Yeah,
maybe not puzzles all that
That's
well.
the worrying thing, I suppose. It's like everyone was sort of acting. I mean, as an outsider, everyone was acting like it was the return of Silent Hill. When it's like Silent Hill games have been like around and still going, and like Downfall was only a couple of Downpour. Downfall. That's a different thing.
That's essentially,
and it was a bit wonks. I don't know. It's like the sort of thing of being like, is it going to be good? I mean, it might be. I don't know. I don't want to be a downer on it, but it's like it's not like. It's one of these weird things, and it might be that they have internally. Japanese companies have a weird thing of not liking to accept failure.
Yeah.
A lot of Western companies we see do it, and they get beaten up for it, sure, but they actually come out and say, we got that wrong. Mm-hmm. You very, very rarely see Japanese companies doing that. And I do wonder if they're at the stage where they're like, oh, we've really messed that up. Let's get it good again. Yeah. Or if it's just going to be wonks, but pretty.
Regardless, I think that just looking at that PT demo, whatever you want to call it, that I think we're going to see more of that stuff. I think we're going to see more interactive teasers.
We'll see it because way too many times. We'll be fucking bored of it.
Yeah, and there's going to be some really bad versions of that, and I'm kind of excited about that.
I'm going to spook the shit out of it. Whenever there's a new demo, I'm just going to pretend something insane's happened. Just get After Effects ready. Oh my god!
Yeah,
the whole this Banjo-Kazooie 3 demo, like Banjo's back.
People are doing that now. On that, so that NeoGAF thread I was reading as I was going along,
falsing stuff.
People were saying like, so this sounds plausible. I don't want to believe it that you have to have a microphone plugged in and say like people were saying that you have to say hello Lisa, which is bullshit. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if the demo was designed for someone streaming it through the PlayStation service with a microphone on to be the first to reveal it. But yeah, there's so if you really delve into that, there's so many weird explanations as to what you need to do. And I've watched people complete that several times. None of them did it, and none did the same thing. I
kind of love that about it, like the Kojima isms about stuff like plug your controller into the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
If they do that in Silent Hill,
because people are streaming this off console, right?
And the person that got it first was streaming.
I wonder, this is me being cynical,
where they tipped off.
Who was the person who got it through first?
It was a girl in, I forgot her, I know her Twitter name, it's like Geeky.
I think she is a Twitch streamer.
I wonder if they just like are able to like almost just go through and look at all the people streaming and just press a button and be like, them. Yeah. I don't know, there's part of me that wonders that, whether if they can just go, this
like I want
press
to say
the button.
That would be pretty.
I want to say that's really not, that can't be true. But I've seen different people play that, and none of them do the same fucking thing. Yeah, it's so weird.
I mean, that sounds like crazy conspiracy theory, but I don't know. I kind of wonder because if that's the case, if there's no specific formula, if even now the internet hasn't quite nailed it, how hard would it be just to flick through and then just be like, because you can watch a stream and you can see what their
and that was the stream that NeoGAF was linking to because she got the furthest along.
Precisely, that's the thing. You kind of just go, well, we can just do this one and just flick a switch.
Yeah. Then again,
you could do that because you just see what you'd be able to look at the stream, know what their PlayStation tag is or whatever. And then just press the buttons. If it's a demo that cannot be finished unless it's activated via an online switch.
Well, didn't Konami have a stream the next day, right? And where they showed off.
They had a Metal Gear thing, and it was briefly discussed.
Yeah, people were a bit weirded out that they didn't really talk about PT very much.
He said he was going to talk about it, went over to do the discussion part of it, and didn't mention it at all. So I barely mentioned it.
So I wonder if maybe that's the reason. That shows that they didn't have that much control.
Listen,
they weren't ready for it.
I don't know. Maybe they weren't ready for it. yeah, maybe they weren't ready for it, or maybe they kind of were, and they just decided they didn't want to talk about it yet because of that.
They haven't got that much time.
I don't know,
But
it's
still,
just the part of me that makes me think like if they had the option to do that, if they had the option to choose when the next stage of the reveal happened, then you'd probably do that, because people are really like they like to be out of control with all that stuff. But like, what do you mean we're just going to let them discover it? What if they don't? I don't know.
Interesting theory.
I don't know. If it's got to be online, then why not?
Yeah.
We're all being watched. We're being watched right now, admittedly by my cameras that I've installed in this room.
That's like going. Yeah, but either way, that as a marketing tool, genius,
it's
absolute genius. Like,
It is, but we'll be sick of it in the same way that we got fed up of the Inception about a year and a half ago, 3 years ago, whatever.
directly after the Inception trailer.
Pretty much after Inception, yeah, and then every game at E3 that year. Anyway. I'll tell you what I've been playing. I'll be really quick, but I've been playing after you guys. This is the cyclical nature of this podcast, right? Is people mention stuff to me and then I go away and play it. It's King of fucking Dragon Pass.
It is.
King of Dragon Pass is amazing.
I've not played this. Joe Scrabbles from OXM.
This is Quinn's fault. Quinn's told Joe about it and told us about it, and now
it's amazing.
So it's a PC game from the 90s.
I bought an iPad when I was in America. Because of the conversion
I saw you try and
rate.
justify that choice.
I've got to be honest, right? I kind of convinced myself it was for scripting and scripts, and I will use it for that.
This.
But it's mainly because I really wanted to play King of Dragon Pass, and it was a terrible idea. I was on holiday with my girlfriend, and I ended up just wanting to play Dragon Pass all the time. It's really good. I failed my first game after a long time because I was trying to be peaceful, and I think if you're peaceful, you fail the game a lot slower. Whereas my second game, I'm like, whoa! And I failed like 3 times quite quickly.
I think I haven't played it in a little while, to be honest, but I think I've tried about 10 different times now. It's I keep annoying the beast folk. Like so you
That's
the thing is I love when I said I started playing King of Dragon Pass, and I got like tweets from Brat, one from Quinn's, one from other people. The mixture of it was amazing. It was like, I think it was you saying, don't aggravate the beast folk, and then someone else being like, the horse lords are coming for your herd. And I was just like, what the fuck? Because it starts off quite slow and nice, and you're like, everything's fine, and it's like you're just aware that it's really nice in the fact that it doesn't give you the warnings. It just be like you just make decisions, and sometimes the consequences are incredibly dire. And you have these advisors who can advise you on stuff, but
they've all got their own.
They've all got their own agendas, and sometimes you just can't trust them. And sometimes they're just useless.
I like I've forgotten which one it is, but you basically there's like a trickster.
Yeah, the tricksters.
So there's like an advisor that will worship a certain type of god, and they're really, really useful because they can do things that people can't. That's it. Yeah. But if you have them on your circle, which is like your group of advisors, and you ask them about anything, the worst advice.
They give you the worst advice.
It's a running joke. But
I had a thing where I was doing really well recently as kind of war clan. I was just raiding the fuck out of everyone, stealing their cows, forcing them to be like nothing. I had a wonderful moment where these people came over and said, "Listen, we just want peace. Please, we'll give you 50 cows if you just leave us alone." And I just went, "No, I want." And I got to choose how many I want. I was like, I want 30 cows a year.
Yeah.
Wow. And they were just like, you've ruined us. And they just left. And they meant that I then got their land because they were next to me, and they were like, oh, we're just taking their land. Because their whole diminished, destroyed tribe, because I just murdered so many of them, just went somewhere else on the map. And it meant I had their land. But then it all started going wrong because I had way too much land. Mm-hmm. And so everything was way spread too thin. Mm-hmm. And you don't see any of this stuff. It's all done with numbers and implications. But
you can you see a little bit on the map in terms of like where your name is positioned. You can kind of get an idea of how much space you.
But it's very broad strokes. It's not like in Civ where you see exactly where everything is.
Yeah.
But it's done enough that it feels really real.
I had a great moment in the last campaign that I really remember losing was. You start off as a tribe, a group of people who just moved to Dragon Pass, and it was going really well. I think I was probably warmongering as well, destroying other tribes, taking their land, and then you get to this natural stage in the game where you need to create a clan, which is team up with other tribes.
It's convince all the other tribes to join together.
Because there will already probably be a clan that's doing that already, so you have to do it for your survival. And then as you start that, I did all the groundwork to get this clan together, and then the leader wasn't from my clan, and I got so bitter about it. I couldn't stand it. And I destroyed myself trying to take control of the clan that I formed, which is brilliant. Like
I was the opposite. I was like, you know what?
I don't want
to be in charge. I don't want to be in charge. And so every time it's like, how will you vote for the clan leader? I'm like, the person who's most generous. Yeah. So I was just creaming in, just collecting cows and money and being like, I don't want to be in charge.
Whereas I was throwing my entire tribe's fortune away, just like, pick me, vote for me. This is
the problem is, I then had the problem in the fact that I let my tribe be run by other people whilst bleeding them dry for so long that when I eventually thought, I'm rich, I'm going to do this, the tribe was in such a state that they were like immediately trying to kill me because they were like, you're in charge of the clan, everything's fucked, we're going to kill you. And I'm like, oh God. Yeah. Ended up bleeding me dry and I ended up running out of money entirely because like...
That's great.
Yeah, it was a PR disaster. But it's great. It's just there was one point where it was like some people came and said to me, we want to kill the leader of this clan. Like, because tribes are smaller, but clans are like collections of tribes. We want to kill the leader of this clan, he's gone mad. And they were like, we need your help. And all my advisors were like, apart from one, were like, yeah, we should help them. Like, you know, apparently we have heard damaging rumours. And one person was like, this isn't a good idea. And I was like, no, we're doing it. And I helped them and I sent an assassin. And it basically means then this clan, and we don't have a clan, we're just a tribe. This clan's like, you tried to assassinate us, get attacked by a clan. The numbers aren't even fair. It's not like a battle that's slightly harder than before. It's suddenly like, here's 8 times more troops than you can handle. Wow. And now your entire army is dead and they've taken about 600 cows. And it's just like you're left with this tiny mess of farmers and everybody starved to death because the entire ecosystem got so destroyed that I had like more children than anyone else because all of them had been killed by war. And it's like, this game is amazing.
The way those decisions are presented is kind of choose your adventure as well. So you'll get like a lovely description of what's going on and then 4 choices, and you'll have the advisors to ask about what's going on. I honestly, that game felt so fucking new, like in terms of like fresh idea.
It's mental that no one knows about it. It came out in 1999 originally.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It came out in 1999, which was the kind of the golden era of RPGs, as far as twats like me say, anyway. And I thought of myself as being really familiar with all of those games of that era. This one just slipped through my net, and most people's, because I've never met anybody who's talked about it. Wow. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and make a video about it, but it might take a little while because it's.
Is it out on PC?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's out on. Well, you can still get it on Good Old Games.
Yeah, you can get it on Good Old Games.
And it's like clearly going to be quite dated because it's a game from 1999. But it's really good, and it's so different, as you say, to anything else. And I also like the fact you can just. What I love about this game is I found myself genuinely. I did this when I was flying back from the States on my own. I was playing it. Found myself on multiple occasions just clicking the button and it coming up with an event or something. And because it has these running storylines going through it, like one decision you might make might not have an effect for 5-10 years, which is hours of play. And then the amount of things that pop up that I had myself literally going, like literally head in hands going, oh, for fuck's, like genuinely being like, feeling like you're in charge of this. And you have people who keep coming back with the same problems over and over again, like, and it's so frustrating where it's like, there was one point where I had somebody say, oh, this is really a problem. And I'm like, well, let's sacrifice to the gods. And they're like, oh, the gods accept the sacrifice. Everything's good. Wicked. Just killed 20 cows, but everything's fixed. Wicked. And then a year later, yeah, that problem's happening again. You're like, spend some magic to deal with it. Okay, the magic has fixed it. Brilliant. And it's like 2 years later, it's like, it's back again. It's like, I had this problem with this one woman that kept going on for so long until eventually I begrudgingly just selected the option which was take her outside of the village and kill her.
Oh God, it's the witch one, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was just like, I don't want to do this, but I've tried everything. And I think that might be randomised. I think you might be able to fix it.
The people fucking love it. Like the people in your tribe are like all about that. Morale goes straight up. Yeah. They're like, yeah, you killed her. Ace.
Yeah. What? It does say to you at the start, it's like, this is a fantasy realm and modern day ethics and morality will not work. Like, well, they'll work a bit, but if you want to finish the game, which must be well fucking hard, if you want to complete the game, you kind of need to forget about that and behave like a king.
Yeah, and a king that believes in these and
mad stuff.
Yeah, like the gods are very present in the game.
I felt really wrong in the fact that when I started playing it, I chose the second time when I was being all like, war is cool. I made it so that like, because you get to choose your tribe's backstory. I chose my tribe's backstory.
You did the slaves.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
You bastard, I still haven't got there.
Yeah, it's good. You choose that as part of your tribe's backstory is that you took slaves at one point and that's a good thing that pleases the gods. And I chose that rather than being like, nah, we didn't do that, mate. We're not dicks. But I chose that, and it means you keep thralls, right? And it means you have like a family turn up at the gates asking you for help, and you go, they're slaves now, and you make them slaves. But the thing is, because your gods and your people believe in that, it raises morale and it gives you magic because you actually have gods that you please. And so, like, it's like by being a dick, I'm pleasing the gods.
Because that's what we've always done. Because you picked that option at the beginning.
Yeah, and it's like if you let them go, it's like when you get an opportunity to take slaves and you don't. It's like you've displeased the gods. You find yourself in a less good position. Sometimes a bad position because you've angered your gods. And I mean, I don't think many games have the balls to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I think that theme of like, that's a decision you pick right at the beginning of the game. And sometimes you'll just be rushing through that stuff. And there is those decisions that you rush just a little bit are the ones that always come back to haunt you. I think like Quinn's, when he first mentioned it, immediately mentioned there's like at one point you'll encounter like a small village of like, I don't know, duck people.
They just look like ducks.
Word. And they're the friendliest ducks you've ever met. All they want to do is just walk around being ducks. And that's fine. But like all your advisors will be, well, a good portion will be like, I mean, they're helpless. You could totally steal their stuff.
Yeah.
You do that, years down the line, there'll be massive consequences.
Yeah. It depends how bad you are. Like you can just be like, look guys, give us a bit of just a bit of something every year, we'll leave you alone. And that's not a problem. Like, you won't have any problems. You might have problems a lot of time later, but initially you won't. But if you attack them, take their land.
At first you'll be like, I got this land.
Yeah, and then quite quickly, like, a whole bunch of other bigger animal folk turn up going, you do not do this. And it kind of makes sense because the ducks, all they're doing is farming food. And you realise that, like, they're actually almost like... They're working with other people. And it's like the clues are there that you just see them just making food. And it's like... How does that work? Like, all they're doing is making food.
How much do they eat?
Like, how much do they eat? Do they need all of that food? And it's like, no, they don't. Other things do.
Yeah.
You two have very effectively sold this game.
It's and it's so
only to see the duck people uprising.
It's genuinely depressing. Like sometimes in a good way. I had a thing in my last game. I lost it where I just had the undead just kept attacking me constantly, and your options are like. You either send out soldiers to try and find the undead and stop it, or you ignore it, or you try and rally nearby clans to help you fight the undead. But the thing is, I've been a dick, and so none of the nearby clans gave a damn about me. Problem. And basically, my armies just kept diminishing. I kept sending out armies, and the armies kept getting killed. And it was like, I just watched as my amazing, fearsome, town-destroying army... And it doesn't relent. It's not like most games where it's like, oh, we'll give you a spike and then we'll let you feel like, oh no, they just kept coming. Yeah. And it was like, because I wasn't stopping them and I had no way of stopping them and I had no relationships. It's great. It's really good. I mean, it's on the iPad. I think it came out on Android tablets as well.
Oh, sweet.
I play it on an iPhone, to be honest. It's not quite as good. It would be nice to have more space, but
it's really difficult on iPhone.
No, it scales all right, actually. Yeah, I haven't had too many problems. It's definitely not the best. If you've got the option, definitely go for an iPad, larger screen spaces,
or PC. Great. I mean, the PC version does look different.
Yeah.
But
I don't actually know how I wonder if any changes have been made to actually the way the game plays at all. I don't really know.
The interface is very different because I've actually downloaded it on the PC because I thought I might capture it on the PC.
Easier, yeah, sure.
Just to talk about it. But I probably will make a video about it at some point. But as you probably guessed, it's a video that's actually there's a lot to talk about. So that video might take a little while. Anyway, we will quickly answer a couple of questions. Alice Brown asks, "Do you think we'll see more celebrities?" After we see Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus. I was trying to combine its names into one mega name. After that, in Silent Hill, what do you think's next, Chris?
It's already happening a little bit, isn't it? But I don't know. I said as soon as I saw that question, I want to see the Chuckle Brothers front something. Maybe like I've just finished playing The Last of Us, played the remastered version. I'd like to see them in some kind of post-apocalyptic situation. Their relationship being the key element to it.
Here's a tiny bugbear I've got about The Last of Us Remastered. Was watching shitloads of people on Twitter going, oh, well, it looks all nicer, but I mean, am I expected to buy it again? No, you're not. It's not about you.
You fucks.
It's not
I didn't
about
play it the first time.
Yeah, it's like the fact that like so many people in the games media went, oh, I just don't know if I'll buy it again. It's like, it's not for you, you selfish muppet. This is when you tell a friend of yours who didn't have a PlayStation 3 to buy it.
Hello.
That's the end of it. Like, Jesus.
I think that game's overrated.
Oh, I'll kill you.
Is it because the Chuckle Brothers don't front it?
Exactly. That is exactly what.
A different experience.
Imagine that. Tears at the end to me, to you. Yeah. The Last of Us remade with the Chuckle Brothers. I'd pay that.
I want to see Kanye West front anything. I'm obsessed with Kanye West, so I'd love to see his ego front a game.
Oh man, what would he be in?
I'd love to see him take on something which just it doesn't make any sense, like Kanye West doing
It would
a
only
football
be
game or something.
Yeah, it would have to be something where it was clearly something he would not be able to do, and yet he does it seamlessly.
Yeah.
Like he's a warrior killing dragons or something. And just being like, ain't no thing. Leon Lambert sort of asks half a question. He just says, games where ambiguity and vagueness are disguised as arty stuff you just don't appreciate? Question mark. I think that's called style over substance.
Yeah,
I think that's the question you're asking.
A reference to Hohokum, which just came out. Yeah,
I don't know.
I think there's a lot of people that are talking about that game right now.
I find it funny. People always phrase it like it's just called style over substance.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I would. Hohokum, I've seen Jim was playing it, video gamer, and I don't really see the appeal. Some people will love that stuff. It looks relaxing to play, but it's just I don't know what the game is. To be honest, I'm not really the type that plays games like Proteus either. I kind of need some kind of running objective, and maybe that makes me a bad person.
It's for kids and mums.
There you are.
It's fine. My mum loves Proteus. It's fucking. It's got little frogs in it.
Because she hasn't played XCOM. Has she played XCOM?
She's not really.
That's
into that.
why.
Like, she likes Myst. She likes pretty things. She likes. I bought a Botanicula.
Yeah.
I bought that. She loved it, and I hadn't played it, and I didn't have the heart to tell her for ages that I hadn't played it because I just bought it because I thought she'll like that. And she kept saying, "Oh, I'm up to the bit with the glowing things. I love it." And then she kept telling me what she was doing, and I was just like, "I've got no idea what you're talking about." But she had a great time. I reckon as a kid, I'd love Hohokum. It'd be better than like watching.
I think it is a time thing for me for like discovering worlds and kind of like figuring out how the game mechanics are, how they work, and what I'm supposed to be doing when it's not obvious to me. That's something that I would have loved when I was, a younger game player. But now I'm just like, I need to complete goals, otherwise my time is not being valued.
That's exactly it. And I just literally before we just uploaded a dumb joke video about mountain and the exact basis of being like. I saw I can't remember where it was, but I saw like it was one of those annoying articles about games where it was like saying, why is it the games media love Mountain but gamers don't? And then didn't answer the question they posed in the article. And that really annoys me. But it was like the answer's obvious. It's because if you work in games media, you can get away with having a Mountain on your desktop all day without people going, what are you doing? Whereas if you've got a job, you don't, and you don't want to go home and look at a mountain. Like, I like it, but if I worked in accounting, I'd want to play something else.
Yeah.
I want to play XCOM or something. Because that's not what it... No.
And that's all right.
And that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Anyway, one more question. We're rattling through these, I'm afraid. But Andy Parsons asks, I've just picked up the second Phoenix Wright game. Why have they given the prosecutor lady a whip?
I don't play Phoenix Wright.
I have played the first Phoenix Wright, and the answer to any question you have is because Japan.
Because Japan. It's the correct answer.
Because Capcom Japan.
10 points.
Any question because Japan. That's how it works.
It does get. I think in the later ones, there's a guy who's half robot. So
because Japan.
Because Japan.
There you go.
I think in the second game, there's a bloody lady who can speak to ghosts. So you've got to get your questions.
That's
in
really
order.
useful in that sort of situation.
Especially when you're trying to figure out who murdered that person. It's like who killed you? It's this person.
You'd think it'd be useful. It wasn't actually that. It wasn't as useful as you think. Maybe she couldn't speak to ghosts. Maybe she's
really good at blagging it.
Maybe I just misremembered that. I think I've misremembered that.
Thinking of
You're
ghost
right.
trick.
That would be OP.
Who got this person?
That lawyer is way OP.
That lawyer's OP. You get him out. GTFO. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there, I think. Thank you very much for joining us, chaps. As I say, Chris is, as ever, at videogamer.com, doing all the video stuff for there, carrying the torch. And you've been playing some... You did a God Hand Let's Play recently.
I'm going to be doing God Hand. I've started a God Hand Let's Play on my YouTube account, which is youtube.com/TamorH.
TamorH?
Yeah.
That's TAMOORH.
That's the one, yeah. So I've started a bunch of... I'm kind of like just messing around with any video I want and seeing what people like, and then going to build on it from there.
Well, God Hand is a cracking game.
Oh man, so good. It's so stupid as well. It's
dumb
ridiculous.
as hell.
Like I came in and I was playing it, and my brother popped his head in. He's like, "Are you spanking a fat man?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is how I roll." Now I'm gonna kick him into space.
That was the glory days. So I kind of find it funny sometimes when I get these sort of fucking Muppets on the internet being like, "What is your problem with Japanese games?" It's like, no, I bloody love them. It's just they've gone a bit downhill lately.
Yeah, they definitely have.
Anyway, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.